Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT news. The Sao Paulo lock-in event is starting very soon again indeed, but SicK has made his thoughts clear on the Sentinel side that he doesn't want Sentinels to talk trash to any team they might potentially play. It backfired massively for Cloud9 and Evil Geniuses over the last few days, and SicK doesn't believe it's at all a recipe for success in competitive VALORANT. Very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Plenty to dive into. Congratulations to SicK as well. He's going to have the married man buff now. And also, big update on the agent teaser. So there's another agent coming to the game. There's going to be 3 more agents this year. They're just flooding them in, which I guess is inevitable, but okay, whatever. So this is the teaser for this new agent. There are 3 more coming this year. One of them is an unknown kind of role, let's say. One of them's an initiator, which might be this one. One of them's a sentinel. So yeah, make what you will of this. Nothing to read into. I don't even know why I really even bother looking at these things, because they don't really bother showing you anything until the, well, real reveal actually comes around. But yeah, an initiator, a sentinel, the third is unknown. There was discussions about a controller, but of course the most recent agent was a controller in Harbor that is now finally getting some use, which is quite exciting to see in the competitive scene. I've always said, right, the last few events, that the teams that really take advantage of the new agents in the meta tend to gain some degree of competitive advantage, like we saw when Neon came out and OpTic were able to use her quite effectively. Obviously, Chamber was certainly a thing, and Sentinels was super slow to catch on to the Chamber meta, and even Fade, right, when she was very viable. Like, the teams that used her best at the tournaments following her introduction, they were the ones that generally came out on top, and Harbor isn't quite as viable, but some teams have been using Harbor, and I think it's worked out generally to the success of said teams. Also, from BCJ, I thought was kind of funny, the fact that BCJ and the Cloud9 guys were coming back on the same flight from Sao Paulo back to Los Angeles. So, yeah, kind of interesting given the fact that Evil Geniuses, not BCJ individually, but Evil Geniuses and some of the Cloud9 guys were certainly part of the crew that was talking a little bit of trash, as we'll see here in a second SicK's opinion on that discussion. Also, this I thought was kind of remarkable from the lock-in event, that there's an earphone thief on the loose, as multiple pros have reported their earphones have been stolen from their practice setup. So I don't know what's going on there, or like it just adds another like weird twist to the tale of what has been a pretty chaotic event, to be honest, in Sao Paulo so far. So hopefully that's all good, but yeah, not ideal if someone's going around just straight up nicking stuff in the lock-in event. Also, an update on what could be Evil Genius's 10th player, because honestly keeping up with it is pretty tricky to remember who their entire roster is and who all their substitutes are and all this type of stuff. I know that Screwface though did join them and Reformed is there and all this type of stuff as well, but you guys can see that Screwface is playing in this one with Sinatraa. So of course I think the idea is here for me, they've got their starting roster of 5 that they just went to the lock-in event with and placed, well, I guess top 16 they placed in the end, after going down to talent, of course, as it was over there in the alpha bracket. But I guess their plan with the 10-man team is to have then another roster that they can play with, you know, when they want to. They're playing Mad Lions, of course, here. So I'm guessing they're going to have, like, not an academy team per se, but their other 5 are going to play kind of as a team as well, so they can give practice to the main team, this type of stuff. And maybe Snailwat's going to be the man to round out that situation. Also wanted to mention a little bit on tier 2 here. Thought some crazy numbers yesterday from this series that Something played in the Pacific region, drawing 136 kills over 5 maps with 200 ADR. Like, these numbers are just completely ridiculous. So congratulations to Something. I guess maybe he's going to get picked up in the Pro League. But nonetheless, in tier 2, Toast actually, Disguised Toast was giving his thoughts on the situation. Thought some funny analysis here from Toast about how they're going to make it into franchising. He reckons, look, if they're not the best team now, that doesn't matter, because eventually all the other teams are going to have qualified, leaving his team as the best of the rest.
So in Americas, there's 10 teams. And next year, I'll have 11 teams. And we're competing to be that 11th team. The good news is if we don't win, next year will be easier. For example, if the guard wins this year, well, next year we don't have to play the guard. And if M80 wins next year, well, the year after that, we don't have to play M80. And if Shopify Rebellion wins next year, that means we don't have to play him next year. Eventually, any team better than us will be franchised, and that's how we get in there. Steel's going to be 40. but we'll still make it.
So Toast's plan here with his roster, because look, at the end of the day, they're probably the 4th best team even in their group there as it stands right now in challenges. So there's a few teams that are better funded, better resourced, with straight up better players, I think, than Disguised's team. But nonetheless, I do think they have a lot of upsides. Will they win Ascension? I don't think so. But will they win Ascension down the line, right? And he seems prepared here for the long haul. Now, the issue with his plan is that the teams that qualify for Ascension and go, well, that win Ascension and qualify for the main league and become the 11th and the 12th team as was being described, they only stay for 2 years. So let's say the Guard win this year's Ascension and they then get promoted for 2024 and 2025, but then they will actually drop back down. Now, of course, they can then win it again and go back up again, but that is the current plan that Riot have got in place. Now, I don't know if this will actually be not exactly enforced, but let's say the Guard qualify through. I personally think the Guard is straight up a better organization than Evil Genius is. So after the Guard come to the end of their 2-year promotion, like, will Riot just let them go back down to tier 2 and have to do it again? Or will they say, actually, you know what, like, we'll keep you and we'll kick Evil Geniuses out or whatever? That might happen. I guess we'll see down the line. But okay, eventually from 2026, 2 teams will come in per year. So that gets to a point where there's 14 teams total going on like a 2-year promotion cycle. So there will be a time where a few years down the line, Disguised Toast team will be more viable to qualify. But it isn't like every year they add a new team forever. They do have this cycle to ensure that the league remains at a reasonable level. But, you know, possibly 14 teams will be enough for Disguised Toast team to make it through. Let's talk then about the lock-in event and how things are going to go going forwards. Of course, the Omega group begins tomorrow. Very exciting stuff. And Fnatic are getting very much ready to go up against Sentinels. Their team is very nasty indeed and should be coming into this series as favourites, to be honest. Sentinels, can they do it? Of course, they do have probably some support of the Brazilian crowd. It's going to be a weird situation for Sentinels, right? Because last year, if you'd have told me that Sentinels would have had some support in a Brazilian crowd in Brazil, I'd have said you'd got absolutely mental. But of course, they do have Sassy and Pancada right on that team now. So surely someone in Brazil is going to be keen for them to be successful, even if it is Sentinels as an organization they've got to support. So all eyes on Sentinels. They say 4 days until their game because, of course, they play on the final day of first round matches. There's plenty of other games happening, though, before then. The question to me is, what are they going to do in terms of saying anything during these games? Because NRG, they didn't really talk any trash. They were respectful generally to their opposition and to the crowd. They had a crazy series against Loud, eventually lost in that ridiculous overtime, and the series actually hit 852,000 plus viewers for that series. Pretty mad stuff, to be honest, which makes it the 8th highest viewed game in Valorant history, which, well, no real surprise, and I'm sure we can hit better numbers than this as the tournament continues if there are more bangers, as there often are when Loud are in play. Unfortunately, LNG, though, are gone, so you don't get to see that particular matchup again. But we got to see the last few days a lot of trash talk coming out of certain players and teams that has backfired so far, and I do feel like it is a thing generally in, well, esports and even sports, really. When a player says something that's a bit of a trash talk on the opposition, it often does come back to bite them. It's the same with if you shoot their bodies or if you teabag them or whatever. It feels like often the other team will therefore win, and maybe they'll win more often than they should based on the probabilities. I don't know if it like fires them up or whatever the case is, but of course EG Ethan tweeted this out before the series that they played to knock them out of the tournament against Talon, and he said, such a sad feeling watching the practice rooms get emptied out. What's even more sad, it's all of the EMEA teams. And in fairness, right, EMEA also all went home and they didn't make it through Group A, but they certainly have their heavy hitters in Group B with Na'Vi, Liquid and Fnatic all in that particular group. So look, Ethan was making this point. Obviously later in the day he got knocked out of the tournament, and the other notable situation here, of course, was Cloud9 when Zelsis had the whole America's better than Pacific thing, and then they were waving goodbye, of course, to Paper X after they knocked them out. And then when DRX knocked them out, then Stax was making his thoughts very clear with waving them goodbye. The entire team was, and also you know, just joking around about Zelsis and the whole bicep drama that was going on there. So this is the thing, right? You talk trash, you know, you mess around, you're going to find out. Like, that's how this thing is said to go nowadays. So do you think that SicK has a fair and valid point on this? Because he says the following: trash talk other teams, then lose the game. It's a game as old as time, seen it myself many times, feel like you're just asking to be jinxed. And then he replies, real G's move in silence, but not me, I talk too much as well. Good night, everyone. So pretty entertaining. So SicK, of course, is the bench player for, well, Sentinels right now. It's obviously exciting to see his potential return at some point, but still, I guess being on the bench is going to be fine for him. We saw in fairness Talon, right? Like, they didn't even have Patafan. They had a substitute player, and they still played very well indeed. So we don't believe that's going to be necessary for Sentinels or anything, but, you know, seeing a SicK sub come in for a map that he's particularly comfortable, I don't know, would be an interesting prospect. But yeah, do you think SicK is in the right on this one? Because we see a lot of this happen where there's trash talk that goes down between certain players and teams, and often it will come back to bite said team that actually, well, started the talk, right? Because Cloud9 started it, they then lost. EG maybe started it a bit, they then lost. So we'll see. But I think what he's trying to get across maybe to the Sentinels boys is don't talk any trash to anyone you might potentially play. So I don't think they will, in fairness, Sentinels, just because their game is so challenging, right? They do play Fnatic round 1, which could be, honestly, the winners of the entire tournament, right? Fnatic are certainly up there with the favourites for the entire tournament, so I don't think Sentinels will win a map here or win a round and start, talking trash on Fnatic. They might do so if they won a series against a lesser team, but SicK believes that's going to backfire. They're certainly trying to make sure his team doesn't do that, because it's not exactly worked out so well for North America so far, and the real hopes remain, therefore, in Group Omega with 100 Thieves and Sentinels. There's a possibility that 100 Thieves and Sentinels play each other in one side of the bracket, so only one North American team can qualify guarantees for the brackets, and it might well be Fnatic that come out of that side of the group. But very much enjoy your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.